I have the absolute honor of a very inspiring leader joining us today for the keynote. And he's somebody whose work I personally been following for a few years. And it really started when I first saw the movie Purna, and then I got to know the background history. I'm going to give a brief introduction and then invite the gentleman here today. Dr. R.S. Praveen Kumar was born into the home of two government school teachers in the forest region of Alampur village, Telangana. He's an officer of the prestigious Indian Police Service of 1995 batch. In a career that's spanning 24 years of unblemished service, Dr. Praveen Kumar served in both international and national environments and won many prestigious awards for his exemplary police service. In 2012, a bigger calling called, and Dr. Kumar hung up his police boots and took over the administration of social welfare residential educational institutions in Telangana. Dr. Kumar has been instrumental in transforming and impacting the lives of over 2 lakh children and strongly believes that the gap between the rich and the poor is an opportunity. Welcome, Dr. Praveen Kumar. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, once again. Thank you very much for inviting me to this reimagining education session. So last time when I addressed all of you the day before yesterday, so it was about transformation of Telangana social welfare residential schools. But today, Vignesh and his team has asked me to talk about reimagining of education, particularly in India. So friends, I'll be very brief in my ideas. So some of them might look very radical, but I think they are worth it, I feel. First, of course, is there is a tremendous need for reinventing the approach, our approach towards education. Various education policies for a period of time, right from starting from Kothari Commission in the Jawaharlal Nehru era, then Indira Gandhi era. Now we have the latest NDA government. We have National Education Policy 2020, and when we were students, we had in 1986 we had again another education policy. And now after 1986, now we have National Education Policy. That's New Education Policy 2020. All these policies are again and again talking about inclusion. Then current education policy is also particularly talking about critical thinking, and then becoming synchronous with the needs of 21st century. But I'll not talk about those things, but I'll talk about the ideas which are extremely core to our society in India. The first thing is, if I have to reimagine and then rejig the entire education, probably I would empower families more than the schools. So unfortunately, what I am seeing today is a convenient outsourcing of education that is supposed to happen in the families, and that outsourcing is being done to the schools, which is totally not correct. So most of the parents, whether illiterate or literate, they are conveniently taking shelter under the fact that they don't know anything about math, they don't know anything about English, they don't know anything about science or social studies, so on and so forth. And then they are asking the teachers to transform the kids. But if you analyze the time that child spends in the school versus the time he or she spends in the community is totally skewed. Child spends in a day 14% of the time in the school, and 53 or 54% of the time in the community, and probably 30% he sleeps. About 33% he sleeps. So what is the lesson here? So lesson is this child spends more time in the family. So family has more responsibility to rear the child, to make him or her wiser and then ready for the challenges that world is going to throw at him or her. So if we have to reimagine the education, we have to focus on educating the families. When I say educating the families, educate the parents. If they are illiterates, you have to teach them, not just reading and writing and then signing on a check or signing on a paper, but teach them about the responsibilities of being parent. and teach them whether you are ready to whether you're ready to bring a child into this world. If he or she comes, are you really in a position, are you capable enough to rear that child as an individual with unique mind? Is something which we are lacking in this country. I think we need to make every home as a school. Make every home as a school. The second thing, the communities today are not in a position to support the students who want to study. So who want to go to colleges, who want to go to great universities, who want to think differently, who want to question the existing assumptions. Community, neither the parents nor the communities. Very few parents are are supporting these kind of things. So today, the second step would be prepare the communities. Prepare the communities to accept, to curate, to encourage, to launch children to great universities, colleges and universities, so on and so forth. And then third thing, the community must become a platform for a continuous debate on various issues that concern us. That could be, same-sex marriages. That could be, Hathras kind of sexual assaults. That could be, human rights violations. That could be, the taxation. That could be, the various decisions various policy decisions that concern us. There could be budget. That could be, expenditure of various governments and the private entities. That could be, universal education. That could be common civil code, whatever. So all these, that could be, the religion versus, spirituality. So all these abstract things, all the issues that concern us day in and day out must be discussed not only in the families, but also in the communities. Today, unfortunately, thanks to this invasion of technology, particularly information technology into our homes, now today the entire communities and the families are drenched with half-truths, sometimes fake truths, sometimes fake news. So this kind of thing, they make them as a glorious consumers, but not the creators. That's what I said in the day before yesterday's session as well. So if I have to reimagine the education, I have to empower the family and community so that they create independent learners, and then people who can discern, people who can go beyond what is visible and make a sense out of it in their own way is something which I would love to do. Then the fourth thing is we have to reimagine the role of school. Today, there is excessive dependence on school, in which we are spending only 14 to 15% of the time. The child spending 14 to 15% of them. So can the schools become only a platforms for socializing? The platforms where ideas, they come against each other, platforms where new ideas are generated, platforms where a lot of experiments are done, platforms where diversity is accepted. So not just the platforms to dump the knowledge, prepare them for examinations, and prepare them for competitive examinations, and a platform for many other undesirable things. Can we change this? Can the schools become a centers to reduce the dependence of the child on the school itself? So that requires a lot of courage. That requires a lot of vision. So we have to reimagine the role of schools. Similarly, we have to reimagine the role of teachers. So today, unfortunately, teachers, after a software engineer, after police officer, after doctor, after all these things, then teachers are, candidates are opting for teachers' profession. That should not be the case. The respect the teachers used to command, I think that should be increased exponentially. Both it has, this is a message, like this, there is a government role in this, there is a community role in this. Governments have to make teachers' life very comfortable in terms of pecuniary benefits, and then in terms of other, non-pecuniary benefits, like, the respect, and then the, aura that you give to the position. The second thing is, teachers themselves have to, reimagine their role. You can no more be a sage on the stage. No, it is not possible. So if you have to reimagine the education, we have to radically see a role of a teacher as more as a facilitator. You share the power, you share your authority with the students. Be contextual. try to understand the aspirations of the students and try to understand the diversity, and then don't impose your personal stereotypes on the student population. No, and you have to treat every child as a unique mind, whether it is a physically challenged child or differently abled child. So all these children, you have to be so inclusive, so freedom loving, and then you have to make school as a very safe space. You have to give that psychological safety in the classroom so that all children come together and then they discuss your ideas. But today, when we were children, we were so scared of teachers. Today, many classes are comatose. Why? Because teacher is not willing to allow the students to talk. Teacher doesn't like the students who write differently. Teacher doesn't like the students who question what is being told in the classroom. I think teachers have to save the education system from the crisis. I think teachers have to reimagine the role and then have to change themselves from being a sage on the stage to guide on the side or a facilitator continuously. Make children teach themselves. You be a supervisor. You be an orchestrator. You be an orchestrator. You be a philharmonist. So that children seamlessly talk to each other. So, and then they discuss a lot of ideas. Then the fourth thing is you cannot divide politics and education. Now, I think in a civilized society like ours, in a free society like ours, I think politics and education, all these things go together. So what we do in the classrooms has a bearing on politics. What is being done in the political arena has a bearing on education. So my request to all the teachers, my dream is to see that all our students discuss these inconvenient issues in the classrooms every day. This is very important. Political awareness. You might become a great scientist thanks to your education, IITs, and then Indian Institute of Science or many premier institutions. But if you don't have basic minimum political awareness, I think you'll be a burden on the nation. You need to have that political awareness, because otherwise nation will have a skewed development. Like you have only 1% thinking about all great things and 99% is left high and dry, and then always frustrated, always excluded. That must not happen. So children should be able to discuss about caste system, children should be able to discuss about superstitions, children should be able to discuss about dowry death, should be able to discuss about infanticide, should be able to discuss about global challenges, the Indian security challenges and the legal challenges, whatnot, political challenges, how do we clean the the political system, how do we clean the society, and then how do we talk about manual scavengers, how do we take our lives into our own hands, is something which day in and day out our children and the classrooms must be continuously discussing. If we don't do that, my dear friends, then you will have 1% will be doing a lot of great things, so-called great things, and 99% will be just living in a very, very frustrated atmosphere, which is not good for any nation which wants to become a $5 or $6.6 trillion economy in 2030, and 2030 is not very, very far. The last thing, the last thing is there must be seamless exchange of ideas, seamless exchange of individuals, seamless exposure to various systems. Today we are in watertight compartments. You have state syllabus, you have central syllabus, you have IGCSE, you have IB, you have ICSE, you have a lot of other systems, and then different socio-economic strata are going into, sadly, into different boards. Like for example, the ICSE or IGCSE board, the children who study in those boards are socio-economically are very different from the students who study in state syllabus in government schools. So can we have a constant intermingling of these students who are studying in different boards, so that the diversity comes naturally. Diversity comes naturally. So it doesn't have to be kind of okay now. Now I see a lot of universities have started the department of inclusion. I see it's so funny and ridiculous. Like university, the companies, they started chief diversity officer. What is this? Chief diversity officer. Do you mean to say that you have not been providing for diversity? I think that problem can be solved right from education stage itself. So can we have a serious intermingling, very committed intermingling of students and intermingling of ideas, something which must be tried on day in and day out basis, both between the public schooling system and private schooling system, different boards and different states. Navodaya, a case in a point, Navodaya has in 9th grade, they send students of South India to North India, North India to Western India, Western India to Eastern India, Eastern India to Northeast India. So at 9th grade, it's a very good thing. But can we do it among the different schooling system, private and then government and then affordable private schools and non-affordable private schools and the government schools and interior tribal schools and so on and so forth. So one of the best examples in this regard is ISEC. ISEC is an organization which deploys people from India in France and then France to Sri Lanka to Indonesia and Cambodia to Poland. So this happens at a smaller level, but can we have it in a very, very big way is something which must be tried very religiously. I forgot one point, that is the last point. Friends, these are Rajasthan type of coaching centers, that is Kota, then or Vajiram and Ravi, or Byju's. I'm just telling the names which are very popular in the market. And like we have in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, we have Sri Chaitanya and Narayana. So all these academies, I think one day they have to close their shops. The teaching, your competitive edge, your ability to crack all competitive examinations must be a natural outflow, natural outcome of your daily churning in the classrooms. So for that, you need to work right from early childhood. So early childhood, maybe from first year itself. So you have to start working on understanding scaffolding and slowly building the conceptual base of the student and building the superstructure on the foundations that you lay in the childhood. So then you cracking the competitive examinations, writing your SOP or your application for universities, and your competitive edge has to be your natural outcome of natural progression. It can't be a 1 year long term, the result of 1 year long term coaching or short term coaching or just 3 months revision program. So this match fixing, or not match fixing correctly, but this rat race for cracking the competitive examination only by understanding the tips and tricks as to how examination questions are asked, and then after that you go and then you crack the examination. After that you enter the university and suddenly you find that there is vacuum. So you have nothing to do there. You dream something, you go there and then you do something else, and then after 4 years of engineering or 5 years of medicine, suddenly you realize that you have to become a civil servant. So, or you have to become something else. You have to become a writer, or you have to become a film actor. So all these things need not be done after 5 to 10 years of college life or something. So if our ability to achieve something must be a natural progression of our work in the schools and the communities is something which I thought I should tell you. So I deeply believe, if we follow some of these suggestions and if we bring a lot of freedom into families and communities and the schools, probably India will be behind it. But I think no way different from Finland, or no way different from Singapore, or no way different from Shanghai, which we are talking about, or no way different from the Western schools, which we have been talking about. And then I think that if this is done, I think we'll be doing great favor to this nation called India. So, and then Teach for India, I wish you all the very best. I hope when you fan out to different corners of this country, so to find your calling, probably I hope that you will be trying these ideas, even in a minute way, or even in the minuscule way, even in a very informal way. If you try these ideas, probably maybe sometime the real revolution in the country, particularly in terms of knowledge and learning, will start. Thank you so very much. I wish you all the very best. Good luck. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Dr. Praveen. It was a pleasure meeting you virtually and hearing your views on reimagined education. I would also like to mention that we had close to 2,500 people witnessing the keynote address on YouTube Live. Would you like to share any closing thoughts?
I wish you all the best. And I have already told you I have great respect for Teach for India. But today your strength may not be enough. But tomorrow you will become a huge organization, and then your presence will be felt in all corners of India. So like, Israel has conscripts, like after 18 years, every young person has to work in army for 2 years. Probably one fine morning, government of India might say that all youth who crossed 18 years or all youth who passed their graduation must join Teach for India and work for the country. So this is my dream, and let's make India stronger. And then this starts with school itself. So school or community itself. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time from your busy schedule. Thank you.
Thank you.